In this session, we are going to continue with some of the important factors of developmental economics. Okay, so the agenda for today is gross domestic product, GDP. When many developed countries were finding it's difficult to maintain the growth rate, Chinese population right from the beginning had concentrated on improving the skill set. Good morning and welcome to the session 4 of chapter 10, Comparative Development Experiences of India and its Neighbors. In the previous session, we have been speaking about Pakistan, and then we did compare about some of the demographic indicators. In this session, we are going to continue with some of the important factors of developmental economics, and we are also going to go back into the GDP and the demographic indicators. So let's have a quick look into the agenda today. Okay, so the agenda for today is gross domestic product, GDP, a very important word in economics and the sectors, indicators of human development. So what are the factors that are actually involved or important in terms of the human development for say? So let's go forward and try to understand it. Now, the GDP is one of the much talked topic about or the issues in the world altogether. So whenever you project the word GDP with all sorts of numbers, let's say that for India you're going to project a GDP of 8.5%. Everybody gets amazed, everybody gets interested, they want to talk to you, they want to understand what is this GDP all about. Now, in terms of GDP, definitely China was a bigger nation. I'm underlining the word was a bigger nation, but now India has overcome that challenge also. So India and China were the forerunners in terms of making the GDP to the top-notch level. Now China has a second largest GDP of 7.2 trillion, that too is in dollars, and Pakistan has a GDP roughly about 10% of India's GDP. Now, what is India's GDP? That's only about 3.3 trillion. Now, this is quite an old statistics that we are talking about. India is very soon going to become a 5 trillion economy, and there is no doubts about it. Now, if you just look at the size, China being at 7.2 trillion, 3.3 India, and Pakistan just being 1/10 of it, you can compare the strength, the buying power, the spending power, the capacity of China and India when compared to that of Pakistan. So that will definitely tell about the economic progress of a country at any given point of time. Now, when many developed countries were finding it's difficult to maintain the growth rate, definitely yes. Why? Because many countries felt that growth rate was not happening. They were developing it very slowly. Not even, let's say, about only 5%. China was able to maintain a near double-digit growth, which means to say that China was something very close to 10% than for more than 2 decades. Now, that's quite surprising for all of us, because in the last 2 decades, if you see, especially from 2000 to 2020, China was the only country that was surpassing roughly about, say, quite close to 10% of GDP. India was just coming as close as possible to 7.5, 8.5, and 9% in terms of the GDP growth. So what is very interesting to see here is that how was China able to maintain such a strong GDP amidst all kind of calamities, amidst all kind of financial difficulties and falling down altogether? But still, we need to appreciate China for the factor that they became one of the strongest nations in the world with having a very powerful GDP numbers onto their side. Now, also we see that in 1980, Pakistan was ahead of India. Quite an interesting fact. It's a trivia altogether to see that Pakistan being ahead of India. But then that's true. China was having a double-digit growth and India was at the bottom. So before we opened up the economy in 1991, precisely, we were at the bottom of the pyramid. We were not really coming up as a promising nation. But then once India opened up its door, once India started showing a promising development activity altogether, there was a drastic development for India, and India started moving like a rocket ahead. It went leaps and bounds ahead, but then for China's growth rate and Pakistan initially met with a drastic decline of 3.6%. So if you look from 1991 onwards, India started progressing step by step, and it started making a wonderful developmental effect altogether. By now, by 2005, 2008, I'm talking about, that was a time when India was standing quite close to about 8.5% in terms of the GDP growth, and 2010 and 12, if you see that, India almost touched a 9.5% on the GDP growth. So India, though it started late, but it picked up very fast, and then it started competing against China, showing the path that India is none second. It cannot be second to none anybody in this factor. So India also started becoming a larger and a developed nation. Now, moving forward, some scholars would also argue and say that the reform process introduced in 1988 in Pakistan and the political instability were the reason behind this trend. In the sense, when I'm talking about this point, the decline that happened in Pakistan was primarily due to this factor of instability of the government and some of the reform policies that were brought along in the year 1988. Now, we need to just go back and rewind the history for some more time. Why? Because right from the beginning, Pakistan's biggest problem was on the governmental front. They never had a stable government. Pakistan was completely in the hands of the military power. Pakistan was dominated by its army and its bureaucrats altogether. So Pakistan was not in a position where it could go forward and tell the world that they were a stable government altogether. So automatically, when your government and your rules and your systems are not in place, there will be definitely a decline altogether, and that was primarily one of the reasons that you could talk about. Later, when we study in the section to contribution that we are talking about, you would see that Pakistan was also one of the countries that started contributing. Now, first let's have a look at the people engaged in different sectors that contribute to the GDP. So coming back to the topic of GDP, we need to understand how people contribute to this sector. GDP is not a magic number. GDP is not something that just drops out of the heaven. GDP is something that starts happening over a period of time when all the people in the country engage actively in production or some productive activity, which means to say that every single person in India, in Pakistan or in China need to engage themselves in a productive activity, then only the GDP will start going forward. So it is quite obvious for all of us to understand here. And now it has been pointed out in the previous section that China, Pakistan definitely had a larger proportion of urban people than in India. So it's quite obvious when you start seeing and listening to here, you will feel that the urban population was definitely higher for that of China and Pakistan when compared to that of India. So definitely they had more concentration towards the city-oriented population. Now, moving forward. In China, manufacturing contributes highest to the GDP at 53%, whereas in India and Pakistan, it is the service sector which contributes to the highest. Now, this is a very, very plain and blatant truth altogether. China, which is known as a manufacturing hub. Why? Because Chinese government concentrated right from the beginning only into the manufacturing sector. They were a kind of personality, they were a kind of people who wanted to understand that China should become the manufacturing hub of the world. China should be the world's #1 position for anything that you manufacture. It might be a car, it might be an aeroplane, or it's a missile or a mobile phone. We are going to talk about China as the world's largest manufacturing base altogether. Whereas India and Pakistan, when they opened their doors for the privatization, they were the people who first understood that it's the service-based economy that will rule them altogether. So India and Pakistan started concentrating on financial services, IT-enabled services, or probably all those back-end services and roles which could support the operation. So India and China predominantly wanted to have a differentiation. So India and Pakistan going forward were a service-oriented economy and China a manufacturing-oriented economy. Now, in both these countries, when I'm talking about India and Pakistan, service sector accounts for more than 50% of the GDP. Quite obvious. Why? Because population factor in India, and then Pakistan picked up the idea from India. So altogether, if you see that India and Pakistan have got more than 50% of their contribution to the economy coming from in terms of the service sector. Now, in the normal course of development, countries first shift their employment and output from agriculture to manufacturing and then to services. Now, this is quite obvious. Why? Because if you look at the course of development, it's normally starting with the agriculture, then people get advanced to manufacturing, then they move to the services sector. This is quite obvious because India and Pakistan by default had agriculture as the majority occupation. From that occupation, we started shifting our focus to manufacturing, and from there we shifted our focus altogether to that of in terms of the development, that is to the services sector altogether. Now, the proportion of workers engaged in manufacturing in India and Pakistan were very low at 16% and 18% respectively. So quite obvious, that is nothing to worry about at all. Why? Because if you look here, the skilled and the semi-skilled forces in India and Pakistan at that juncture was very less. But today, when you look at the current economy situation, India and Pakistan definitely have got a higher amount of literate population, a very skilled population that can contribute into the manufacturing sector, that can contribute in terms of the development altogether. The contribution of industries to GDP is also just equal or just marginally higher than the output of the agriculture. Quite nominal and quite, a factor that you can definitely talk about. So what is going to happen here is that from the output that we have seen to that of the level that we are talking about, definitely there has been a significant contribution, but then we could not just go on with this factor that initial levels itself we could shoot up on the GDP. We had to take it very slowly, with agriculture being a major contributor initially and then shifting our focus all the way to the services sector. Now, moving forward, in India and Pakistan, the shift is taking place directly to the service sector. Now, this is the point to be noted. Right from agriculture, we had a very quick shift to the services sector altogether. We skipped the manufacturing. Literally, we skipped the manufacturing sector. Why? Because the manufacturing sector in India and Pakistan had a very, very low credibility base of about 10 to 15 years. That's it. 10 to 15 years is what we really looked into the manufacturing sector. But right from 1991 onwards till 2020 that we are talking about currently. But for the last 30 years, we have been the service sector leader. So that's why I would say that the phase moved directly from agriculture to that of services sector. Now, Pakistan being the next service sector emerging player of development. Even Pakistan has started playing a lot in terms of coming into the service sector, banking and financial services, IT enabled services. So somewhere down the lane, Pakistan has been trying to copy India in terms of development, in terms of scope altogether. And we are quite obvious and we are quite known to this factor that Pakistan and India has been together playing on the services sector for the development of the nation. Now, why is that? Because we feel that it contributes more for the GDP and at the same time, it emerges as a prospective employer. That word needs to be underlined and mentioned. Nobody can give you employment like the services sector. At any given point of time, please try to understand that the services sector is the largest employer of any nation. When the IT industry started coming up in India, way back in 1996, I'm talking about, in the next 24 years, roughly about 50% of India's population is directly or indirectly linked to the IT sector, because that is the potential of the IT sector, that is the power of the IT sector, both in terms of payment, both in terms of the career option. IT sector could make the people literally go on to their skill set and make them drive ahead in terms of growth, in terms of salary, in terms of opportunities altogether. So IT and the services sector was definitely the most emerging sector of the era. Now, if you look at the proportion of workforce in 1980s, Pakistan was actually working faster in shifting its workforce to service sector than India and China, because somewhere down the lane, Pakistan had known about it, that services sector is going to emerge and that's going to be the leader in the coming years. So Pakistan wanted to move faster into the service-based economy. In the 80s, India and China, Pakistan employed about 17, 12 and 27% of the workforce in service sector respectively. In 2000, the levels moved to 24% for India, 19% for China, and look at Pakistan, you have 37% of the people respectively. So Pakistan was definitely ahead in this race where they wanted to move into the services sector. So you can see the shift that is happening radically, moving the workforce, moving the population from agriculture to that of the services sector. Definitely an approved, definitely a benefited process, a plus to the economy. Now let's move forward. Now, if you look here again at the GDP point of view, in the last 2 decades, the growth of agriculture sector, which employs the largest proportion of workforce in all the 3 countries, has declined. Now, that's quite true. That's quite obvious, because if you see here, there has been a definite dip in the agriculture. All of them have started focusing on industrial or on the services sector. The China has maintained a double-digit growth, whereas India and Pakistan growth has been declined. So India and Pakistan did not really focus on the manufacturing. They declined to a larger extent as far as possible. Whereas when you look at China, they gave a lot of importance to the industry sector, and that's how the sector started growing forward altogether. In the case of services sector, India has been able to raise its rate of growth from 1990s, whereas China and Pakistan reduced their service sector growth. So somewhere down the lane, if you started seeing that, India started concentrating on the service sector, whereas China and Pakistan started concentrating only in terms of the industrial sector. So there is a radical shift that we are talking about. China's growth is mainly contributed to the manufacturing. India's growth is by the service sector. So you need to understand here, Chinese economy, a manufacturing dominated economy. Indian economy, a service sector oriented economy. 2 different ideologies, 2 different paradigms altogether. So what is India trying to understand? What is India trying to move is that they understood that there is a lot of money, there's a lot of opportunity, and there is a lot of progress when we shift ourselves to a service-based industry. Whereas when we start looking in terms of the growth for China, they believe that the economy can progress only through the manufacturing sector. They believed on the factor that the more we produce, more our output grows, the sales grow up, the revenue goes up, the consumption goes up, our economy will grow. So, there was a shift in the thinking process altogether. During this period, Pakistan has shown a deceleration in all the 3 sectors. Now, that is one thing that we need to see, because Pakistan as a country was not able to hold up to the race, and somewhere down the lane, they had to come down and they were not able to picturize themselves in terms of the overall development. Now, moving forward. Now, we are also going to talk about the human indicators or the factors altogether. So, you might have studied about the human development indicators in the lower classes, definitely. Yes, that's, something like when we talk about population, when we talk about gender, when we talk about race, culture, so many factors. Now, we are going to compare it versus the developed and the developing nation. So, if we compare the indices, the human development indices, you will find that China is moving ahead of India India and Pakistan. No doubts, no queries at all about it. Why? Because Chinese population right from the beginning had concentrated on improving the skill set, on the communication factor, learning new languages, learning new methodologies altogether. So the China's intellectual capital is more stronger when compared to India and Pakistan. China's ideology was to make every single citizen literate, every single citizen capable of speaking English other than their mother tongue, and try to penetrate into every sector as far as possible. So definitely their growth index, their human intellectual capital was far better than India and that of Pakistan. Now this is true for many indicators, income indicators such as GDP per capita, proportion of population below poverty line, or health indicators such as mortality rates, access to sanitation, literacy, life expectancy, and malnourishment. Now all these things, when you start hearing about it in your TV, news channel, or in paper, the question that comes here is that how many of us really know the reason behind these factors? The reason behind it is that we are not aware about it. Many of us still think that sanitation or hygiene or a malnutrition or these kind of backlashes are primarily only in the rural areas, but this is also prevalent in the urban sector also. The reason is that many of the people in India or in Pakistan did not take up the effort to make themselves aware. Now, even during the times of the pandemic or during the time of a crisis, India and Pakistan are a country which only tries to abide by their self-made rules, but they don't try to go by the government regulations. They don't take up the time in order to educate their people about the basic awareness, about the basic living conditions. On the other hand, China took the effort of educating the people, making them self-aware about healthy living conditions, about how to live more better and how to protect themselves. So that is why you see the human indicators in China is far better when compared to that of India. Now, moving forward, coming back to the GDP factor for that while. Now that is where I'm going to compare GDP to that human resource indicators or the human indicators factors altogether. Pakistan is definitely ahead of China in reducing the proportion of people below poverty line. Now this is not a statement just because their population is low compared to India, but this is a sincere effort that was taken by Pakistan in order to reduce the people below poverty line and make them more better perform in terms of education, sanitation, and access to water. So this is something which you really need to appreciate, that country being a smaller country, being a country which was selectively backward in terms of growth, but still Pakistan has got a better sanitation and education when compared to that of India. But neither of these two countries have been able to save women from maternal mortality. In China, 1 lakh births, only 50 women die, whereas in India and Pakistan, more than 500 women die. Now look at some of this serious statistics that has been popping up onto your board. Now when you look at it, in China, for a 1 lakh birth, only 50 women die, but in Pakistan and in India, 500 women die. Quite a serious situation to talk about. The reason is that these people in China have understood the reason behind it. They know that what are the factors that are truly affecting. So they have educated their women. They have made a sense factor to all the people that what is the importance of maternal rate, how a mother should need to take care. Whereas in India and Pakistan, we have still not reached that awareness level among the women, among the population, so that we are not able to come and reduce those ill effects. Now, surprisingly, India and Pakistan are ahead of China in terms of providing water resources. This is a trivia for you. Why? Because India and Pakistan have made some improvements in the area of water, in the areas of disbursement and other factors, which is slightly better when compared to that of China. You will also notice that for the proportion of people living below international poverty rate, that is $1, below $1 rate, both China and Pakistan are in similar position, whereas the proportion is almost 2 times higher in India. So again, alarmingly, the poverty rate in India is much more higher when compared to that of China and Pakistan. Now, India is a country which is having this poverty rate. Why? Because we were not able to provide employment to all. The literacy rate is not that high, and there are people who are still living in very, very bad conditions, who are not able to support their family because there's no basic support from the government. So now, moving forward, this occurs because of all the extremely important indicators, but they are not sufficient. Along these, we also need to understand what we call as the liberty indicator. One such indicator has been added as the measure of democratic process altogether, where we involve people in decision making, but that has not been given extra weight anywhere. In India and Pakistan, and probably I would also like to involve China here, you would see that the public opinion is not really being weighed upon. Public is allowed to be a part of the noise, part of the commotion, part of every single activity, but they are not directly involved in decision making. So that's one thing which we really need to know about. Now, the measures to the extent of constitutional protection, or talking about the rights, talking about the liberty, you cannot see those things in India, China and Pakistan when compared to that of the Western nations. The reason is that they are more organized, they are more flexible, they involve people in every structural decisions that are being taken. That is mandatory, that is needed in our country, because if you are not able to do so, if you're not able to involve the people, then we will not be able to get a better economic value. Now, without including these things, perhaps more giving them the overriding importance altogether, the construction of a human development index is not possible or said to be incomplete. Or, this is where we need to start understanding the factor that though we have been talking about development, though we have been talking about GDP numbers or manufacturing and other kind of factors, but unless and until the single human being of your country, the last citizen of your country, if he is not empowered, he is not being given the basic rights, he is not being made aware of what he is all about for the country, the development of human index is not at all possible. Now, moving forward, with this, we come to the conclusion of this session. I hope and believe that this session was highly interesting, useful and informative. In the next session, we will be trying to talk about some of the most interesting factors of the developmental economics, where we're going to compare the nations. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today.